On today's episode of the Think Bigger Mastermind, we have the privilege of interviewing top producing realtor and team leader, Jesse Garcia. Welcome to the Think Bigger Mastermind with Steve Yeager and Justin Stoddard, where we interview some of the world's brightest and most innovative minds, helping grow your thinking, your actions, and your impact. All right, welcome back to the Think Bigger Mastermind. Excited today to introduce today's guest, Jesse Garcia. For those of you that have been in the real estate world, his name and face is becoming more and more common on the big stage. So welcome, Jesse.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Yeah, always excited to feel your energy and have you cast a big vision for our audience today. So I'm going to get my co-host here today with me, Steve Yeager. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Excellent. All right, Steve's going to walk us through. So Steve and Jesse are like, we kind of have this bromance thing going on. They're brothers and from another mother and have kind of deep background on each other. So I'm going to let Steve kind of walk us through Jesse's bio together with Jesse. So go ahead, guys.
So Jesse and I, brothers from another mother, I like that. But Jesse and I have each have two children. We each have a daughter named Presley and then a son. My son's Jack and his son's Jackson. So I need to do the ages to figure out who copied whom. But let's just say you copied me. Does that work?
It'll be a never-ending battle.
Yeah, I think it will. So, I've known Jesse for a long time now. Jesse has done a number of things, and I think what's kind of fascinating, actually, is what Jesse did before he got into the real estate world. But, Jesse, would you do me a favor and do us a favor and just kind of, in your professional life, what have you done that's led you up to now working in real estate, and then we can take it from there?
Yeah, I started off and not knowing what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I'm still kind of in that same adventure. And it was in law enforcement prior and just was not happy. It was a great career, great job, great paycheck benefits. And for me, it wasn't not challenging enough. It was more of I wanted to be around more high-level thinkers and be able to have complete control over my outcome. Right, and so working in the real estate field for me was enticing because the person next to me, if they weren't selling real estate, it had no effect on the amount of money that I could make. And in a corporate world, or a public service world, the person sitting next to you could be doing nothing, but be there longer, as an employee, and have a degree in whatever and get paid more for doing less. And that just didn't sit well with me.
That would be a tough environment to be in. Right, where it's not performance-based, it's more like seniority-based.
Well, yeah, and I think for me, what drove me out of that was, as Forrest Gump said, I'm not a smart man, and that's kind of me. I'm not going to say I'm the smartest guy in the room. By far, Steve knows this because he's much smarter than I am. And I tend to jump and build the airplane on the way down and hope I build it in time before I hit the ground. And that's just how I've made a lot of my decisions. And not saying it's the right way, it's worked for me. I like to put myself in uncomfortable situations that forces me to produce results. And if I know I have a safety net, if I know that there's a backup plan, if I know there's a plan B, I don't give it 110% and what it really needs from a focus and attention standpoint. So for me, I go all in. I burn the boats, and fortunately, as Steve knows, I'm a very supportive wife that deals with me on a daily basis and lets me do those types of things.
She's a saint.
Yes, she is.
So tell us a little bit about the law enforcement. I think that's fascinating. And I'm hearing it more and more. People kind of in the downturn market, maybe been in real estate, went and said, I need to find some more of a 9-to-5 job. And I've heard this story a couple times that got into law enforcement. What led you to law enforcement?
So I when I went off to college, college really wasn't my thing, and I tried it in 3 different colleges. It didn't stick. And then at some point, I realized that I was only like 3 or 4 classes away from my degree in social science, sociology. And I realized that I was going to get a degree, and it wasn't in anything that I wanted to do after I got out of college. And so nothing interested me. And so after I got out of college, my dad, retired from law enforcement, and it was to the point where I was still living at home and got out of college. Just, it wasn't for me. And he said, great, here's an application. Here's what you're going to do when you grow up until you figure out what you want to do. I was like, okay. So I filled out the application and went through the academy, and in 2000, I got my real estate license in 2006. Right as everyone knows, the great real estate boom of that time. So I wanted to get into real estate because I wanted to invest in real estate and become a millionaire. And so I started buying. I bought a flip at retail value at the height of the market, and by the time we flipped it, turned around, the market had tanked, and now we had to rent it out for this ridiculous amount of money and lose money on a monthly basis. And essentially, we ended up short selling that property because we needed to. And in 2008, I decided that, hey, I'm going to leave my job. And it's just because my wife, who's a hairstylist, was doing the hair of the former association president. And I made it a point to seek her out, find her, and ask her, hey, I didn't even ask her. I said, I need to be a part of your team. I want to quit. How do I do that? And so we went and had lunch, and she told me the piece of advice that I will never forget. She goes, I would love to have you on my team, and here's the only thing. You can't half-ass 2 careers. Pick one.
Mm-hmm. Good advice.
And so, great advice. So the next day, I literally walked in. I had, Rochelle and I thought about it for a very long time, and by a long time, I mean about a half hour. And the next day, I walked in, put in my 30-day notice at the sheriff's department, and a week later, I was doing open houses on my days off and quit August 1st of 2008.
You mentioned, out of the world you come in, out of the Keller Williams world, there's this talk about not having a life by default. It sounds like as you came out of college, that was kind of like, well, I guess if I can't find what else I'm going to do, it's like by default, I'll go into law enforcement. But something wasn't sitting quite right with you. You wanted to create a life by design. And this then started to unfold that new chapter of your life.
Well, you're absolutely right. And what's funny is there's signs all around us, right? And I'm a big Star Wars nerd, so it's always the Force, the faith. Everybody has their religion, their faith, whatever it may be. And for me, all the signs were pointing to it. And you just have to open your eyes and open up your heart and ears and listen to them every once in a while and just be mindful of it. And Rochelle and I were actually going to move to Arizona because I had an opportunity with a law enforcement agency out there, and literally went through the entire process. And as soon as we were getting ready to pack up, move, rent a house, they came back and said, our city is on a citywide hiring freeze. We cannot hire anybody else. And so at that point, Rochelle was like, she looked at me and says, law enforcement is not for you. This is the sign. You need to do something else. And at that point, then the dominoes started falling. I met the association president, had lunch. She told me what she told me. Went in the next day, got the support of my wife, and quit. And the other thing that's interesting is, the more I tell the story is, I love my family to death, and I'm going to preface what I'm going to say with that. Is your family is going to protect you any way they can. And I had family, as soon as I said that, say, what's your backup plan? And that's the last thing you want to tell me.
Right.
Because, hell or high water, I'm going to prove it. And so I would say from a mindset standpoint, especially if, from thinking bigger, is you also have to block out what a lot of people say. And those are people that are going to be close to you and care about you and love you because they want to protect you. And it's going to kind of put up that wall of, I'm not going to let any of that, not really negativity, just I'm going to try to change their thought process and show them that I'm going to succeed, or I'm just going to ignore it and prove it regardless of what anybody thinks.
It's interesting.
And so that was my mindset.
One of my mentors talks about, like, if you have some haters, good, get yourself some more. And I think probably for people wired like us, having people that say we can is probably a pretty actually healthy medicine for us to take, because it lights a fire saying, okay, I'm going to show you. I was already going to do it anyway, but now I'm just going to do it a little bit faster, and I'm going to be sure you see it. interesting to hear that correlation.
I went to an event one time with Darren Hardy, and I know you like Darren Hardy, Jesse, and he was telling a story about kind of just along these lines about if you're going to do big things, you have to be comfortable with some people not liking you. And he said it took him a while. He likes to be liked, and he said he started doing things, and he realized, 1 or 2 out of 10 people that he comes in contact just don't like him. And he said that was a really tough thing for him until he realized when he was watching, it was during the 2008 presidential election, that President Obama was elected, and more than half of the country didn't just dislike him, but there was this hatred towards this person. And he said, and I watched him get up there and make this speech, and he looked confident, and he was still the president of the United States, and he was okay with more than half the people not liking him. Why should he care if 2 out of 10 don't like him? And it's kind of one of those things where it is what it is. You're going to always have those people that are going to try to hold you down. You're always going to have those people that look at you. They're going to resent the fact that you're doing what you want to do. But it's about, and tell me if you agree with this, it's about having a very clear goal, a very clear focus, and you know what? Come hell or high water, you're going to get there.
No, I 100% agree, and I love that story that Darren told. It's in his book. It's in a lot of his podcasts and training courses that he says that, and I 100% agree with it. Not that you want to intentionally go out and just tick people off and make them hate you, but there's a piece of that where you hear Darren Hardy, Grant Cardone, all these guys say it is that if you're not pissing people off or making them upset or they don't like you for whatever reason, you're not trying to be innovative. Mm-hmm. You're not trying to think outside the box. You're not trying to create anything new. You're going with the status quo, and then people will love you. The people that understand what you're trying to do when you're breaking stuff, and they understand it, they're applauding you and supporting you as you're breaking things, those are the people you want in your circle.
Yep.
So walk us through now. You're in real estate. You're not just going at it easily, kind of very similar to the maybe theme we've heard so far. Is it you're going big? Tell us kind of what your goals look like, and then maybe even how you surround yourself with people that help kind of inspire that out of you or within you.
You guys are 2 of them for sure. I follow you guys and talk to you guys quite a bit. You're always motivating and inspiring me to play bigger, especially when you say, hey, you want to be on the Think Bigger Mastermind podcast. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to start playing bigger, even more bigger now, especially if, I just said more bigger. But bigger because, you want to practice what you preach, right? And so for me, you can always have big goals. And the one thing that I've learned over time, just maturing as much as I can in this industry, is surround yourself with people that obviously think bigger, which I do. Never be the smartest person in the room, which I'm not. And for me, what I've learned, and I would say at least in the past 6 months of the new year, focusing on my time and helping my team members focus on their time. You can have the biggest goals in the world as you want. You can say, I want to go make $100 million, or I want to make $1 million. If you're not budgeting the time and creating action plans to achieve it, they're just dreams at that point. And so the biggest learning lesson for me is not just saying or writing down my goals, is creating action plans and developing those 3 big rocks that have to happen on a daily basis to achieve those. And I'm working on practicing that. It's not a destination, it's the journey. So I'm continually trying to practice that. And I think Steve and I had a phone call last week or a week before, just talking about that. And it's being mindful of your time, what you're doing with it, where your focus is, and getting your team on board with that. Because if they say, oh, here's my goal, and we can't help them achieve their goal, then we have DNA on that, especially if they're doing everything they can and we're not doing our part to help them succeed.
Very cool. So you took it from your own life down to actually managing a team. You're interesting how you talked about not just having the big vision, but also like your day-to-day has to reflect that big vision. Like you've got to be working on things that matter towards that big vision. That's cool. Love that.
Thanks. Yeah, I use a lot of sports analogies, as I'm sure you guys do. You can't. The ultimate goal of a football game is get in the end zone.
Right.
And if they knew that they can execute one play to get in the end zone every single time they have the ball, then they just have to have one play, just maybe 10 plays for the entire game. But they have a game plan of, what if we're on the 5, when we're on the 10, we're on the left hash, we're on the right hash. They have a game plan getting them only 100 yards away every single time they have possession of the ball. And there are people in business that say, I want to make $1 million and have zero action plan and wonder why they're not getting there fast enough.
So, okay, I have a question for you then. So the other thing that we've talked about before is, you talk about making $1 million. It's really hard to make $1 million from one place. It's very, very hard. It's not as hard to make $1 million from several different places. So we've talked a little bit, you've done flips in the past, you've done rental properties, you're involved in real estate now. A project that you are working on that I know about as well is Pipeline Wizard. And talk a little bit about how you got involved with Pipeline Wizard.
By accident. It was something I needed for my own personal production. And Pipeline Wizards is it's a simple system for agents to just validate their commission checks and hold them accountable to their activities and chunk down, here's my ultimate goal and here's what I have to do on a daily basis to achieve it. And I needed that accountability. And when I first got into the industry, I built it just for me. And then I started realizing, when I became a team leader, as Steve knows of a Keller Williams Market Center, of 100, 200 plus agents, you start realizing, wow, okay, I think more people need this tool because they're just running around with chickens with their heads cut off, trying just to go out and sell real estate without actually looking at it from a business standpoint or from a goal standpoint. And the simplest way I can describe that is, if you try to save money or get out of debt without ever looking at your financials, or if you try to lose weight or get healthy, you want to get healthier without ever stepping on a scale or tracking your calories or watching what you're going to eat, you're going to fail every time. And so just Pipeline Wizard is that scale and scoreboard for real estate agents and teams.
So for those that aren't familiar with it, what does it track? It sounds like it's the numbers of real estate. Specifically, what are you tracking?
It's tracking their pipeline, so it's going to track every single transaction they have, either in escrow or in the hopper, their commission. And the biggest thing, the biggest value proposition is our mission is, we say our mission is to protect your commission. And the more I go out and speak, talk, educate, coach agents, I realize that 9 out of 10, and that's being gracious, don't really know how to calculate their commission down to the penny and check. So they're getting checks from their brokers. Not saying the brokers are intentionally trying to, give them incorrect checks, but we found tens of thousands of dollars in errors as agents have contacted us stating, we looked at your system and your system's wrong. And so after we took a look at it, we said, no, you got paid wrong. And you might want to go back to your broker and just make sure that they understand that, no, this, and because it breaks it down line item. So every single commission check shows where every single penny is going out of your commission check before it gets to you. And so it just helps them validate how much money they're making and make sure they're getting paid correctly, as every single business owner should.
Interesting, because you think about the typical real estate sales professional, they don't get into the business typically of sales because they're really good at numbers, right? That tends to be kind of chink in their armor. So to have a tool that they can lean on, like a key leverage point that helps them be able to, like you said, protect their commission, that's a pretty valuable value proposition when you can see how much money we can save you just in potentially just lost commissions just based on miscalculations. Very, very cool.
No, exactly. Yeah, you hit it right on the head.
So tell us a little bit about who are you surrounding yourself with that's causing you to think bigger? You mentioned Steve and I. You've got obviously in partnership with Patrick Woods. Who else are you seeking out or listening to, or learning from that are your mentors, whether in person or just subscribing to their content that's helping kind of grow your thinking on a daily basis so that you can kind of stay ahead of your team and help them do the same?
So, Darren Hardy, we spoke to Darren Hardy. He's, ever since I read The Compound Effect years ago, he's been a huge, mentor of mine, indirect mentor, I'll say that. And Grant Cardone, Gary Keller, he has all these guys have just, their ways of thinking are just phenomenal. And I'm reading a book right now. You guys may be familiar with Shoe Dog by Phil Knight.
Yeah.
And that book is just, from an entrepreneur standpoint and just the way they think, nobody has it figured out, and it's a process. And that's the one thing that's comforting to me, that everybody just continues to fail forward. They're just failing a lot faster than most people, and surrounding themselves with people that help them overcome those failures a heck of a lot quicker. And this year I've dedicated myself to absorbing as much of that information as I can from people who have come before me, and whether they're older, same age as me, or even younger. And Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Robbins, and just absorbing as much information as I can this year. And just being a sponge to really take action on it the second half of this year going into 2018.
The thing I love about Shoe Dog, it's interesting. Everybody looks at Nike and wants to be Nike, right? Or even be a part of Nike, or even wear Nike. But you don't realize the struggle, how unsexy Nike was in its early days, and what a grind it was. And I love that you shared that book, because I was really inspired by just kind of what the grind looks like in the early years. I think a lot of people are deterred from grinding because it's hard and it's mundane and it's oftentimes messy and it's hard, et cetera, et cetera. And when you look at that any great company, they seem to have had to have gone through that in order to create something great, to create something anybody wants to be a part of.
Well, and what I love about that book, and along with every other book that I've read along the same lines, is Phil. I'm gonna butcher it here for a minute, but he said something along the lines of, kept telling his business partners, "We're not broke. We just don't have any money." And it's that the business is sustaining itself, and it was a business for 7, 8, even maybe 10 years before it was even Nike. Going through a whole bunch of up and down roller coaster, and it kind of goes into Darren Hardy's entrepreneur roller coaster. It's you start looking at these books and these people, Napoleon Hill, and all the people that came before us, and taking what they've learned, and no matter what, they're all still pretty much the same lessons moving forward. And I think just with technology coming into play within the last 10 years in the industry, it's useful, and I think it's also making everyone less productive because they're more distracted with it.
That's an interesting perspective. So from a standpoint of your team, leading your team, how do you create that for your team, or ensure that they're doing what you're doing and exposing themselves to bigger thinkers? How do you create that culture in your team so that they don't get caught up in the mundane and the trials and just adversity of the grind?
Well, and I think you hit it on the head, which is the key word is culture. The Maverick team has a massive culture, a great culture, built by the agents. And, what's great about our culture and along the same thought process is, we have agents on our team that may be having a bad day. And, they look at the weekly phone calls that we have with them, or the team meeting. Like last week, we had one agent on our team not having a bad week, had a lot of things going on personally, and literally came in, and after the team meeting, she was saying, this is the best part about my week, was coming in to be a part of this team. And, it's really helping everyone on the team think bigger. It's everyone on the team, we're sharing our goals, we're sharing our personal goals, our business goals, and I think that's crucial that, as team leaders and everyone on the team, you have to know each other's goals. You can't just be people passing in the night or passing each other through the hallway and just going, hey, good luck to you. If we're all on the same page and everyone knows each other's goals, where everyone's mission is going, and not looking bad or judging anybody because somebody wants to close one transaction a year or one transaction a month or 5 transactions a month. We're all supportive of each other in that goal, and it's, everyone on the team always asks the question of how can I help you? And it's that culture that really pushes our organization forward. And there's also that accountability piece, I think Gary Keller said it best. He says, I'm loving, but my standards are not. And we have standards to be on the team, and if you don't hit those standards and you agree to those standards and you commit to those standards, then and they're not being met, or we find out you're not a cultural match, you're not on the team, because we've built a great culture and we don't want to jeopardize that from a fun, great time being a part of the team to there are standards and you're going to hold you accountable, not because we want you to hit, Maverick's goal, which is a total of everyone else's goal on the team. Right? So we don't say, here's our goal and you have to meet this. It's what's your goal, what's your goal, what's your goal. and we use those to make up Maverick's goal, and then we go, great, we got to go out and either get more agents to join the team to hit our goal because of this is where our goal's at now. And so I think understanding everyone's goal is a big part of just the team thinking bigger and having a bigger vision because they know they have a support system around them.
So Jesse, kind of to wrap up and kind of goes along the lines of what we're chatting about here. When you're leading your team, and we talked about always having a bigger vision than your team, what's the best way for you as the leader to communicate that?
Well, we have the meeting, and we do that in a group environment, and we also take the time to meet with every single agent one-on-one, and every single month, and we see them all the time on a weekly basis. And the question is simple: where are you at? Where do you want to be? How can we help you close the gap? And as we go through their goals with them on a quarterly, annual basis, it's great. Do you think you can hit this? How bad do you want to hit it? And it's going back and putting those questions onto them to really help them self-discover, as you guys are familiar with, how committed are you to this, and what are you going to do to get there? And is this a goal that you can easily attain, or is this thinking bigger where, that's going to be a stretch and take me way outside my comfort zone? Great. Now we hit the point and we'll help you get there.
That's awesome. Hey, Jesse, thanks so much for today. Thanks for taking some time out. It's great. I think we need to have you on again later too. I'd like to dig in a little bit more into Jesse Garcia, the technologist, a little bit. I think working with you on Pipeline, you have some real forward-thinking ideas of where accountability software is now and where it needs to go. And I think that's a call for another time, but I think it'd be fascinating to kind of pick your brain a little bit more about that.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, you guys, like I said, you inspire and motivate me on a daily basis, and it's an honor to be on the Think Bigger Mastermind. So anytime you want me on, I'm there for you guys.
Good stuff. Awesome. Yeah, good stuff, man. Hey, just real quick, in case anyone in the audience is curious about learning more about Pipeline Wizard, where should they go?
Oh, easy. Just go to pipelinewizard.com and check it out. There's free trials. Play around with it, dink around with it. It's a very easy system to use, and 3.0 is going to be launched in the next 3 months, which I'm super excited about.
Very cool. So that's probably the best way to get in contact with you. Is there some sort of info at pipelinewizard.com if someone had additional questions?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, you could email me, Jesse, at pipelinewizard.com, info at pipelinewizard.com. I'm pretty much on every social media outlet there is, so just track me down and let's connect. Good stuff, man. Thanks again for your time. Really appreciate it. And let's go think bigger, man. Yes, sir. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
See you, Jess.
Bye-bye.
We want to thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Think Bigger Mastermind with Steve Yeager and Justin Stoddard. Now, here's how you can show us some digital love in return. Number 1, subscribe to our show. Number 2, give us a review. Number 3, share this with a friend. And number 4, go think bigger.